so the last but not least, our final presentation will be made by Presque High School from Presque, Maine.
The Presque High School CIF team presents The Struggle of the Middle East by myself, Clint Adler,
Emma Bollier, and Grace Plague. Could Israel itself hold the answer to solving the struggle of the Middle East? Since the Balfour Declaration of 1917, many Middle Eastern countries have refused to acknowledge Israel as a legitimate state. This is because the creation of Israel is seen as a betrayal to the Palestinian people.
There has been a conflict in the Middle Eastern region since biblical times. The countries we have included in our solution are Israel and Palestine, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, and Syria.
Jerusalem is considered as a holy city by the Muslims, Christians, and Jewish peoples. Because the Israelites were scattered into 12 tribes, they sought land for themselves. According to biblical history, Israel was established as a result of the 12 tribes scattering and claiming land for the Jewish peoples.
Since the Balfour Declaration, which was set up in 1917 by Britain and France, the Balfour Declaration set up a Jewish homeland in what is now known as Palestine. As the Ottoman Empire fell, many Arab countries were added to. The land of the Middle East was partitioned by British and French allies to create the state of Israel and Palestine. In 1920, Palestinian forces stormed Jerusalem in a jihad against the Jewish people. This was because the Palestinian request to stop Jewish immigration to Israel was denied. Stores were looted and police were assaulted. In the end, 6 Jewish people were dead. This became known as the Nebi Musa riot.
After World War II, tensions between the Palestinians and the Jewish peoples intensified. Palestinians attempted to deny Jewish immigration to Israel while Israel continued to occupy Palestinian lands. At this point, the majority of Middle Eastern countries still refused to recognize Israel's right to exist. This caused hostilities such as the Six-Day War, in which Israel struck down Egypt's air force due to a fear of Egypt having a first strike. They then proceeded to strike down every other air force in the region that was allied with Egypt. The Yom Kippur War was between Israel and Egypt, Jordan, and Syria. They attacked Israel on all sides, attempting to regain the land lost as a result of Israel's victory in the Six-Day War. The land was the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights.
Could Israel itself hold the answer to solving the struggle of the Middle East? Israel's creation has sparked many conflicts between Middle Eastern countries. We believe having Israel's legal borders be enforced could begin to reduce tensions in the region.
Enforcing Israel's borders is essential to lowering tensions in the region. However, Israel ignores its legal boundaries and settles on other land that is not theirs. Palestinian people having their own state satisfies their need for security in the region, which should deter them from feeling obligated to start up a weapons program.
By establishing a Palestinian state, the tensions between Arab nations and Israel will be reduced. By enforcing Israel's borders, surrounding countries may not feel compelled to launch a nuclear defense program to protect the lands that are being settled on.
The land given to the Palestinians in the Oslo Peace Accords should be given to them completely, so they can have an official state of their own. Because Israel is not solely composed of Jewish people, it should not be considered a Jewish state. Acknowledgement of the Arabs and Christians living there should also be recognized. Land which was taken from the Arabs in the Gaza Strip and West Bank right before Israel was created should be returned, and Jerusalem should become like the Vatican City, belonging to neither Israel nor Palestine.
Israel will be recognized as a legitimate state by other nations and the Palestinians. Although the population of Israel is 75.2% Jewish, Israel will not be a Jewish state. The other population consists of 20.6% Arabs and 4.2% other peoples.
Point 2 of our proposal is that the Palestinians should occupy Gaza and the West Bank, in accordance to the UN Partition Plan of 1947.
Point 3 of our proposal says that Arabs living in Israel will receive the land in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Because in 1947, Arabs living in Israel began losing their land in what became known as the Palestinian Exodus. During this time, approximately 711,000 to 726,000 Arabs were expelled from their homes. The land in the West Bank and Gaza Strip should be returned to the Arabs with hopes to begin to reduce some tensions in the region.
An international zone should be declared around Jerusalem in accordance with the UN Partition Plan of 1947, because Jerusalem is holy to other peoples than just the Israelis and the Palestinians, similar to the Vatican City.
A strong leader, such as, but not limited to, a strong U.S. president like Jimmy Carter, is necessary to help aid or expedite the process of getting Israel to sign the treaty to create an official Palestinian state.
Could Israel itself hold the answer to solving the struggle of the Middle East? We believe that it does hold the answer. By enforcing the border, conflict with other countries will decrease, reducing the need for defense weapons. However, we understand that greater brains than ours have tackled this problem with little movement towards peace in the region. We remain convinced that open communication from all parties involved is essential to paving the route to peace. Thank you.
Any questions?
Comments, questions? Okay, so if there are no questions, let's give them Brendan one more time.
Is this going to be, so you'd mentioned that we need a strong U.S. president in order to facilitate this. Would you also consider using the UN or other countries or a coalition of countries?
We use the example as a strong U.S. president, but it is not limited to.
Okay, and what about countries that still don't want Israel to exist? How would you talk to them about it?
We believe that if Israel would acknowledge the Palestinian people and give them their own official state, then other countries in the region would be more likely to acknowledge Israel, which would begin to reduce the tensions.
And then would follow Israel's disarmament? Is that
Yes.
sort of, okay.
Yes. Because they would feel less likely to have a defense program against Israel.